Hi, friends. Today, I'd like to introduce Katie Maris, author, keynote speaker, podcast host, and choice maker. Katie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to finally be on with you.
Me too. It's such a pleasure to have you here today. I want to start from the beginning, and I'd love if you could tell us what early life was like for you.
Oh my gosh, like early, like childhood, like
Early life.
all
Like
the
we're
way.
going all the way back. We got to start with the childhood so people can really understand, how you came to be the woman you are today.
For sure. So I grew up in, I guess, not the most ideal circumstances. I both my parents are addicts. I raised my brother and sister. My life was definitely not as bad as off as other lives are.
Mhm.
um, or could be, because I still had a roof over my head and food on my table. Like it wasn't like I didn't have those things. But my parents were addicts, and so I was a daughter, a student, a caregiver, a sister, a tutor, a chef. I was all those things from a really, really, really early age.
Mhm.
And I was a parent to my parents. There were most nights, practically every night, from, I don't know, the age of 10 to 18, where, my dad had this awful habit of falling asleep, like drinking till he fell asleep, with a cigar in one hand and his drink in the other. And so, for the better part of my childhood, before my early adulthood, I would wait up every night and I would, wait till he fell asleep so I could put the cigar out. And some nights he'd let me get him to bed. Some nights he wouldn't. And then I'd get up super early the next morning just to make sure the nights that he didn't get to bed, that he wasn't in some sort of like compromising position that, I didn't
Mhm.
want my brother and sister to see.
Mhm.
I got kicked out of the house actually rather early, I think around 18, 19 in there after my parents finally got divorced. I moved in with my dad eventually. My dad then stole all my precious jewelry and
Mhm.
sold it to feed his gambling addiction. Anyway, fast forward, worked my butt off, through high school, had almost full time jobs because my
Mhm.
parents wouldn't pay for things like tampons and
Mhm.
shampoo and deodorant. And so I had to find a way to do that. And then I got out of high school, didn't know really what I wanted to do. So I went to college. I changed my major like 10 times because I had never taken the time to like decide who Katie was and
Right.
what does Katie want to study? What does Katie
Yeah.
want to do? So left college with a whole, bunch of mishmashed degrees that I
Mhm.
honestly couldn't even describe what I had. Visual arts, human resources, marketing, photography at one point. And then I went and got married and I
Mhm.
had three beautiful babies. I got pregnant with twins first, 26 years old.
Mhm.
And about 7 months into my pregnancy, just under, I got really sick.
Mhm.
And I developed a syndrome called HELP syndrome. And at 26, my husband at the time was 30. I was dying, and my liver was failing, and I was bleeding out internally. And I had these two babies that were under 7 months, baked in the oven,
Mhm.
not ready to come out. But he had to literally in a room with hundreds of doctors. It felt like it was probably only 20 doctors, but
Mhm.
he had to sign that, your wife's not coming out of this. You're going to have two premature babies.
Oh my gosh.
So I went under at 8:30 and my daughter was born at 8:30 and 30 seconds and my son was born at 8:31. And I was in a coma for 4 days after their birth. Yeah.
What? I had no idea
Yeah.
that this was part of your story. Wow.
So we were in the hospital for a while. I did platelet transfusions, and because my blood was like water, I lost all my
Mhm.
platelets. I had zero platelets, and my liver had failed. So it was, took some time to recover. And then my boy, Noah, was not born breathing, and he had a whole host of problems in the NICU. He would literally need to be resuscitated like 20 times a day for the first month out of the womb. Yeah, so I'd
Oh
sit in the
my gosh.
NICU and just watch these nurses, because I wasn't allowed to touch him either. So I'd just watch these nurses um, tend to him. But then there's my daughter Ella, who
Mm,
was a fighter. Oh my goodness, and is she
mm,
feisty now? She's going to
yeah.
take over the world. But she showed it from the get go, and I was able to breastfeed her,
Yeah.
almost immediately, which was
Wow.
incredible. The little thing, like their head
Mm,
was here and their butt
mhm,
was here. They were so teeny tiny. They were
mhm.
like 2 pounds when they were born. They were so tiny.
My gosh.
Yeah. And then fast forward, I had another baby.
Okay.
She was full term, 10 pounds. So complete opposite.
Wow, 10 pounds?
I was humongous. Oh my
Oh
goodness.
my gosh.
I was humongous. Yeah.
Wow.
And she's
Well,
just a little light to my life. Yeah.
when I look at you like radiating at me through this screen and just like look and hear about your beginnings and the woman that you've become, like you are a fighter. And when I think of you, it's like resourceful, resilient. You were so focused on taking care of others and
Mhm.
being there for others that you never like had a moment to check in and figure out like what does Katie want? Like what does Katie want to do with her life? And so I think it's like watching you on this journey now has been so incredible. And I think when you start out like that at such a young age, you're like trying to make meaning of it, right? And so it really makes you a lot more resilient.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I ended up going back to school in my 30s, and I went back and got my master's in adult training and development, because I
Mm,
finally figured out, what I really loved and what I
yeah.
loved doing. And so while I had my three babies at home, I went back to school, was working a full-time job, doing something super cool.
Mm,
Which would I never would have imagined. I built Canada's first online educational platform for the dental industry. And
mm,
so I was able to do that. And then alongside that, I started to side hustle
mm,
and build my dream. And this is where, my customer experience, um, I guess, experience comes into play.
yeah.
And I started to, on my, weekends, on my vacation time,
Mm,
on my sick days, I
mm,
would train with my mentor. Like he would fly me to keynote speeches, and I
mm,
would train with him, and he would teach me his ways, and I would consult for his
mm.
clients on top of the job that I had.
Wow. Wow.
And I went through a couple companies, uh, sort of through that journey in the dental space. I ended up
Mm,
as COO of North America's largest dental consulting firm. And I was on a stage with about 800 medical professionals in the audience. And I got off stage and I sent in my resignation. I was like, this is what I want to do. And I'm
wow.
just going to double down on Katie.
Wow.
And so I left a multi six figure corporate job with, two, three babies at home,
Mm,
under the age of like 8.
mm,
And I guess they weren't really babies, but three kids, and
mm,
a marriage that wasn't doing so great. But I was like,
mm.
I need this. And
Yeah.
so I went out on my own, and I never looked back.
Wow. Congratulations. I'm
Thank
so
you.
proud of you for doing that and listening to your inner voice and inspiration, right, to go after your dream. And I know you recently gave a TEDx talk.
I did.
Congratulations on that. I wanted to ask what it was about and what if there was something that, was going on in your life at that moment that really inspired you to get up on that stage.
Well, there's a lot going on in that moment for sure.
Mhm.
My TED talk, my TEDx talk is about, it's called The Art of Choice. And a lot of times we are on what I call the choice cycle, where we're on this like forever hamster wheel that I compute it or equate it to the same as abuse, but it's abuse we put ourselves through. It's that abuse cycle where,
Mhm.
there's the tension. We know something's wrong. An event happens, which then forces us to make a choice. But
Mhm.
often, instead of leaving that choice cycle and doing the hard work and doing what we need to do to reap the rewards of the calm after the storm we create in our heads, we just get right back on that choice cycle because we don't want to choose to do the hard work to take that step forward. It's more comfortable to stay comfortable when in actuality you're just creating um, more storms in
Yeah.
in your own mind, and it's really a game. It's a war you play between yourself and your mind.
Mm-hmm.
um and so I talk through the fact that our life is just a series of choices, and we can't always be handed perfect deck of cards. We're not always handed this amazing
Mm-hmm.
royal flush. But we also don't get to choose what hand of cards we're dealt, but we do get to choose how we play them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times we are victims and we make excuses. And don't get me wrong, I've done it. Like, I'm not saying I'm perfect. For sure, I've been victim, and I've made excuses as to why I can't or I can, or what's holding me back. It's, we point fingers instead of looking inwards and looking at ourselves and saying, well, I can get off this insanity wheel right now if I were just to be honest enough with myself and say, okay, I can control what I do next. I can't control what has happened, but I can find purpose in what I can control
Mm-hmm.
and making that choice. And a lot of people say to me, well, Katie, what if you make the wrong choice? Or, we get paralysis by analysis. What if we don't make the right choice? What if we go the wrong direction? Well, the beautiful thing about a choice is there's always another choice to follow.
Yes.
So you're never stuck. Like, you're
Mm-hmm.
never stuck as long as you keep making choices. But if you stay stuck and live in the past and tether yourself to the past, define yourself off of what has happened, then you stay in that perpetual choice cycle and you never
Yeah.
get out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you keep focused on what you can control, what you can do, what you're going to do next, and the positivity that comes by living a life like that, your life just seems to unfold far more joyfully.
I totally agree. It's almost as if there are an infinite amount of other choices on the other side of that first choice you can make that steps you away from feeling stuck. It's the
Yes,
decision to act.
yes, it is. And it's a lot of folks don't. Like, it's just easier to stay where you are. It's hard to make change.
It
It's
really is.
hard to go into the unknown. Um, at least in their minds, I think it's harder to stay in the unknown than it is to make a
Mhm.
change. But a
Mhm.
lot of folks, they think, well, this is comfortable. I know this.
Mhm.
And what I don't know is what's scary. But the
Mhm.
reality is what you don't know is what is going to change your life. What
Yeah,
you do know is going to keep you where you are.
exactly. There's not going to be any changes if you don't make
No,
a choice.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Mhm.
people can feel so overwhelmed because it's the fear of the unknown. What's on the other side of this choice
Yes.
or this decision?
Yes. And it's always, I mean, it's always exhilarating. It's always a good thing. It's never really like, and that's the thing. If it doesn't work out, just choose again.
Right.
Like, just choose again.
Just choose again. I love that. So I know you're recovering from a relationship with a man who you originally thought was the one.
Oh
Can
gosh.
you, yeah, can you kind of share how it all began compared to how it ended?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I had found my Prince Charming. Let me tell you, I was like, oh, finally, God has blessed me with the man of my dreams, and he's going to love me and take
Mhm.
care of me and support me. And he sees my beauty inside and out, and he thinks I'm amazing, and his kids are fabulous. And oh my gosh, he's adventurous like I am, and he loves to travel, and he's an entrepreneur. So we get to do whatever we want and build this empire.
Yeah. Ticked all the boxes
All of
on
them.
paper, every
All of
single
them.
box.
Like, all of them.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, until he didn't. And I hindsight is 2020, right? So I look back now, and because I'm a writer, I'm an author. I journal a ton. So I've got 4 journals, one for every year we were together. And I didn't journal thinking, oh, I'm going to need to look back on this and, you know, have prove to myself I didn't make it all up. I didn't do it for that reason. It just was the way that I could get through it. But I
Mhm.
can pinpoint pretty much to the day looking back where the relationship was not okay.
Mhm.
Where I was my journal entry, I was pleading to God to make me better,
Yeah.
to fix me, to be stronger, to be less emotional, to not be easily offended, so that I didn't cause the
Mhm.
problems, so that I didn't make him angry, so
Mhm.
that I could be better for him.
Yeah.
And I can look back, and first of all, I don't recognize the woman on these pages. I can tell you that right now.
Mhm.
Like what you see right now, this is Katie.
Yeah.
I was a shell of a woman. I don't I was not home.
Mhm.
Psychologically, I was not home. I
Yeah.
was like almost removed. Like my body was there
Mhm.
and I was present in formation, but I was not me.
Mhm.
And yeah, so the manipulation, the gaslighting, emotional and mental abuse
Mhm.
started, and again, in hindsight, pretty darn early. Like I
I
can
was gonna
now,
ask. That's
I
what I was
can,
gonna ask, like how soon into it you realized things were off, but chose not to do anything about it.
so I mean, I I knew things were off. The first time he was physical with me, I knew it was all not okay.
Mhm.
Especially when it ended up being my fault. Like, and I knew, but I chose to do nothing about it because I loved
Mhm.
him,
Yeah.
because I was the one that was causing it, because I needed to be better,
Mhm.
because if X didn't have if I didn't do X, he wouldn't do Y. Like he'd say that to me all the time. If X didn't have if X wasn't what you did, then I wouldn't be my
Mhm.
way.
Yeah.
And so I really internalized it. And so, but in hindsight, I can look back and I can see the seeds being planted. I can see the part I played in it, by the way. I totally played a part.
Mhm.
I thought, okay, I want to be this man's everything. I'll do anything. He's my Prince
Mhm.
Charming. I fell in love with him so deeply, so fast,
Mhm.
and so fully.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to be everything for him.
Mhm.
And so anything he ever told me that maybe an ex did or did not do, um, or, you know, in his, as a teenager, things that,
Mhm.
women did or did not do, or what he did with women or whatever, he would tell me. I would take note of this, and being the person that I am and how in love I was like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
I got this.
I can jump
I'm gonna be
I
your
can jump
everything.
higher. Yeah,
Yes.
watch me.
Yes, I can do this, and I'm going to do it
Yeah.
with pleasure, and I'm going to, and if I'll put my boundaries in place, but
Mhm.
okay, he doesn't agree with this boundary, so I move it a little bit more and a little bit more, and to the point where I didn't have any boundaries, and my
Mhm.
worth was tied to sex. My worth was
Mhm.
tied to what I would give him or not give him. My worth was tied to being his everything, his fantasy.
Mhm.
And so I couldn't breathe if I couldn't give him the things he wanted.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't breathe. Like,
Yeah.
towards the end of the relationship, I was seeing my third therapist,
Mhm.
and my therapist was celebrating with me, like when I would shower. Like I was suicidal. I had suicide ideations. I questioned myself full, like all the time, like reality. Like, and he would gaslight me, saying, no, you said this, so why are you mad? I'm like, but no, that's not how I remember the conversation
Mhm.
going. But no, that is what you said, and I'm just doing what you said, and you told me to go do all of this, and I'm sitting here going,
Am I crazy?
but that's it. I thought I was crazy. So I went to therapy to be better for him. Like I
Mhm.
literally said, that's my mandate with my therapist. He's like, Katie, I don't see how any of this is healthy. He goes, but I'm here to support you. So let's give you the tools to be able to handle this. And
Yeah.
my therapy sessions were focused on how to make me stronger, so that I could show up the way he needed me to be.
Yeah. So often when in a relationship like that, you don't really understand what's going on because of the emotional manipulation, and certain individuals can be a master at that. And so you don't really see what's going on and you think you're the problem. And if only I could be better, then we wouldn't be having these issues.
Oh, yeah, that was the thing I repeated to myself over and over again. Only if I, he always used to say, you're a moving target. You say you want this, but then you react a different way. You're a moving target. Why can't, or he'd say, we could stop it all, but then you'd have to deal with the fact that I'd be bored. Um, you're enough, but then we're just settling. So
Mhm.
it was always just enough good out of one side of his mouth,
Yeah, yeah.
so then the bad, and you're like, well, I don't want you to settle.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be the reason you settle. I don't want to be the reason you're
Yeah,
bored with me and you
yeah.
might like go find it in another woman.
Mhm.
Like, I want to be everything to you.
Yeah,
I want to be your eternity, your
yeah.
everything. And um even like, yeah, just the gaslighting and the manipulation.
Mhm.
I still gaslight myself. Like, I just had therapy even this morning, and
Mhm.
my therapist, I'm like, so was I abused?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, do we want to go through this again? I'm like,
Right.
no, but I need to. Okay, Katie, let's go through the power control wheel. Let's take
Mhm.
a look. There's physical abuse, sexual abuse. There's 8 other ways an abuser abuses. And
Mhm.
she's like, Katie, you have been highly abused
Yeah.
on all 8. And even
Mhm.
to this day, you're out almost 7 months. And even to this day, he's still abusing you in all
Mhm.
the ways that he can't physically get, but the ways he can't physically
Yeah.
get to you, by
Yeah.
intimidation, by harassment, by financial control,
Mhm.
by he's doing
Mhm.
all of it.
Mhm. It's the constant mind games and
Oh,
chasing that original high that you think is gonna come back, that
yeah,
feeling maybe that
that's
you've
that
never
trauma
felt
bond,
before.
right?
It's a trauma
It's the
bond.
trauma bond and the
Yeah.
breadcrumbing and the
Mhm.
hoovering and all
Yeah.
the things. Like, he harassed me. Thankfully, I have a protective order in place right now, which is great.
Mhm.
So until he's contesting it. So we'll see how long that stays in place. But so I've actually had a month of silence, which is
Wow.
incredible. Now I'm not shaking when I go to check my emails, because I blocked him on every other medium, but I would get these
Mhm.
emails. And some of them are like, I mean, I wouldn't even read them out loud.
Mhm.
Some of them are just harsh, like calling me all the names under the sun. But then in the middle there, I get a happy birthday. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Right. Nothing makes sense. Nothing will make sense. And I think the further away you get, the more clearly you'll be able to see it, and just like the gratitude and appreciation for the freedom you now have. And I really appreciate you speaking up on it and using your voice, because I know a lot of women aren't able to do that and really need to hear this.
Yeah, it doesn't come without like repercussions. Like, I'm being
Yeah.
sued by him right now.
Yeah.
It comes with repercussions, but
Yeah.
77% of women stay silent, and I refuse to be that. God has given me a gift. As an author, as a speaker, he's given me the gift of communication and the
Mhm.
ability to write and share stories.
Mhm.
And I refuse to squander that gift. Listen, I gave him everything too. That's the other
Yeah.
thing. I gave him everything. Right now, he literally froze all the accounts, left me in debt,
Mhm.
and said, go sell your body for groceries. I own parts of businesses, and I'm fighting to keep food on the
Mhm.
table right now.
Yeah.
So he can take all of that.
Right.
It is what it is,
Yeah.
but he can't take my voice.
Mhm.
But he can't. And
Mhm.
so I refuse to let him have that last piece of me. I refuse.
Yeah. And what advice do you have for someone who's feeling stuck in a challenging situation, perhaps like speaking to the younger version of yourself?
Oh, that's a really tricky
Mhm.
answer, because there's no right answer, because when you're in it, it's different for everybody. Um, sure, I can be here and be like, get out and, go get help and tell anybody that will listen and protect yourself and
Mhm.
love yourself enough. But the thing is, it's not a matter of self-worth at that point. And so a lot of women feel shame around, well, why didn't I did, why didn't I love myself enough to leave? Well, there's so many reasons you don't leave. Well, first of all, you love him. Secondly, you're scared. There's probably financial control held over you, so if you leave you don't have anything, like in
Mhm.
my case. There's kids involved, there's just so many reasons. So for me to say what advice would I give my younger self, I would first of all not get into something like that. I would educate myself. So if there's anyone out there that, you have daughters and you're in a relationship that's awful, and get your daughters reading on narcissism and on manipulation and on gaslighting so they can see the red flags. Treat your sons how to care for a woman and
Mhm.
to, respect and listen to a woman. And she's more than just a body, like she's more than just um, there for sex. Uh, I would say, though, to myself, like I would give myself more grace than I think I did,
Mhm.
because it's freaking hard
Yeah.
and it's confusing and it's isolating, and you don't sometimes don't even know up from down.
Mhm. And when I look at the at situations like this, you wonder, like, if I would have stood up for myself sooner, if I would have said something or like called him out when he was doing this, then what would
You
have
can't.
happened? You
No,
know?
but that's the thing, like especially if there's like physical violence in
Yeah.
place. Like I remember one time, I did something wrong, and I was self-harming, and he came home and he was furiated with me because I had done something that I've learned my lesson, I'll never do again. um and he was infuriated with me, and he saw me, like I wasn't taking my life, but I was cutting my upper, like I just needed to feel something because I knew what I was going to get when he came home. And so I came out of the bathtub, he saw me, he got so angry with me, and wrapped in a towel. At least I think I remember it's a towel, I'd have to look at my journals. But um he literally kicked me and then took me by the neck and drugged me from the bedroom to the bathroom and put me head first into the bathtub. I mean, thankfully I'd let the water out, so there was no water. But, you know, you learn not to speak up. You learn to be
Mhm.
good because you know what's coming. You know what you're going, because here's the thing, it's what I'm going to cause, what you're going to cause. You know that you're going to be the reason that situation escalates, or that, and so
Mhm.
it's so much more complicated than
Yeah.
giving some sort of counsel or advice. I mean, giving yourself grace, finding a community,
Mhm.
um, speaking up to somebody,
Mhm.
journal, because if you are being manipulated, my journals have been my savior. Looking back
Mhm.
over the 4 years I was with him, I mean, I played a part. You have to own that, right? Like I could have
Absolutely.
left, right? I
Absolutely.
tried to leave a few
Yeah.
times. I went back, and I went back in summer, or in February of 2023, March 2023. We had broken up and I had gone back. I chose that at that point. Like we broke up, I went back. So you also have to, not blame yourself, but
Mhm.
also own your choices. And journaling helps you see what
Mhm.
you could have done differently versus what the manipulation was. And
Yeah.
so I would say journal, get it out of your
Mhm.
system, find somebody you trust, but that's not always possible.
Yeah. I think from the beginning, like for women getting into new relationships, pay attention to when things feel off
Oh
and like
yeah. Trust your
be
gut.
okay questioning them and trusting your gut, whether it's manipulation, love bombing, or if you just like don't feel comfortable telling someone what's going on, that's probably a sign that things are off.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is at the beginning, it's really hard to, unless you've been in a ton of relationships, it's hard to distinguish what's love bombing versus what's being in love, and
Mhm.
you know, what the excitement and the butterflies are versus love bombing, right? It's really quite hard to distinguish when you're living the fairy tale, because that's
Mhm.
really what it is. Um, but if it is too much of a fairy tale, that is your warning signs. I on my podcast I interviewed Dr. Carlin Costa, and she's a psychologist, she's a psychotherapist, and she said love should be boring and safe. And so when we feel this excitement, it's actually our nervous system warning us. And it should just be slow and easy and boring. She's like, it should be boring. It shouldn't be fireworks. It shouldn't be this, you know, fly me here, fly me there,
Mhm.
or like love bombing constantly, falling in love, saying I love you right away, saying things like nobody's ever loved me this way, or I've never loved anybody like this, or nobody's,
Mhm.
sexually pleased me the way you have, or these really big statements are
Yeah.
the statements that, come on, really? I mean, now I can say that. I mean,
Right.
if you, with experience, and now that I'm out and I'm officially like single for the first time, I think in my life, since I was married for 15 years and then I was with
Mhm.
him for 4, or almost 4. So I'm single for the first time. And now I'm like, oh, I get it now. I'm like, red flag, red flag, red flag. Nope. And I'm like, you
Um,
can stay, you
yeah,
can go.
right.
And
But
you notice that difference. But when you go from relationship to relationship, or if it's your first relationship,
Mhm.
you have no idea.
Yeah. And it's easy to be like, "Oh, this is what finding the one is supposed to feel
Right,
like,"
right, because
because
and
it's so high.
that's what Dr. Costa says. She says it's we are molded by Disney, right? Like the fairy tale princess. This is, our romantic comedies. This is what life is supposed to be, and this is what love is. But the reality is, it is
Mhm.
not. Like, love is patient, love is kind, love it does not boast. You go back to the scriptures and you go
Mhm.
back to what God intended, like, love to be. That's love.
Mhm.
Love
Mhm.
isn't a fairy tale. Love is hard work. Love is
Yeah.
safe and boring. At least I'm
Mhm.
finding that.
Yeah. It's kind of an unlearning too, right? Of like what you've just been through, what you're used to now to choosing better for yourself,
Oh
knowing.
yeah. Oh my goodness. It's
Yeah.
you go back to that choice cycle. You go back to the fact that at some point you have to make a different choice to have a different outcome.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't feel shame around it, because
Mhm.
your life is not defined by what has happened. Your life isn't defined by your missteps, by your failures, even by your successes. Like, your life is not defined by what happened 24 hours ago, a month ago, a year, your childhood.
Mhm.
Your life is not defined by that. Your life is defined by the next choice you make. Your life is defined by what you decide to do next, how you play that hand of cards. And so if we could
Mhm.
all live in this moment of, okay, cool, I'm going to let that go because it's not going to serve me. I don't need to
Mhm.
feel shame over it. I'm going to look forward, and now I'm going to find purpose in what I can control. And really, that's what's really helped me. I've done a lot of work on myself in the last
Mhm.
7 months, or almost 7 months. There's been a lot of sitting in the shit. I don't know if I can swear on here, but I just did.
Yeah.
Okay, so just there's been a lot of sitting in my shit, a lot of, dealing with my trauma, childhood trauma, dealing with my, um, this trauma, and trying to piece together, well, why did I accept that? And then what am I going to do moving forward? So now that I have this information, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to love myself, and I'm going to just keep moving forward. And it
Mhm.
takes a lot of work. It's like a muscle we flex at the gym, to
Mhm.
make it stronger, to make that positive outlook stronger, to live in a place of
Mhm.
gratitude, faith, and hope, and keep moving forward. It's an active choice
It
every
is.
single day.
Yeah, choice after choice,
Oh
building
my
that
gosh.
muscle and committing to the things that we say we want for ourselves and making sure. I love this alignment between thoughts, words, and actions.
Yes. Well, and it's, I think, a little deeper. It's thoughts, words, and your heart, like,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
true change doesn't happen unless you're emotionally connected to it. There's
Mhm.
a study that was done by the age of 16. We're set in our ways, like our
Mhm.
habits are set in stone,
Mhm.
unless we experience an emotional shift.
Mhm.
Like it,
Yeah.
and in my choice cycle, I say this, we'll talk about maybe losing weight. We all want to lose 5 pounds here or there. We all, signed up for the gym as a New Year's resolution. And that tension building is, oh, my jeans are a little too tight, or oh, maybe your joints are starting to hurt. But there's something that takes you to the point where something happens, so maybe you can't fit into your jeans anymore, or maybe, heaven forbid, you have a health scare, which
Mm.
catapults you to a choice. Okay, do I change what I'm doing, or do I keep on this trajectory? And most of us will go to the gym for like 30 days, and then we just go right back to what's comfortable. For the few that really look at that and say, okay, I didn't like the way that made me feel, so I'm going to take that emotional shift, I'm going to change my habit.
Mm.
And we need to marry together our head, our thoughts, our words, but our heart space. We
Yeah.
need to feel, and the heart and the limbic system, I guess it all works, all in one, but it is that heart space where
Mhm.
you will actually change. You will do differently because you're feeling it in your body. You're feeling
Mhm.
the difference. Like when I wake up in the morning, I feel gratitude and I feel joy. And this is
Mhm.
the roughest, darkest season of my life, yet I'm the happiest I've
Mhm.
ever been.
Yeah.
And it's because I've chosen to marry together, to work on my thoughts, to be humble enough to say, okay, that needs to change,
Mhm.
to speak positively about
Mhm.
myself and about others. And I even, no matter what's going on, I still pray for him and his children, and every single night.
Mhm.
And then my heart, that gratitude. I live
Mhm.
every day in gratitude. And because I do this, I'm able to keep making that choice over
Mhm.
and over and over again to just keep
Mhm.
moving forward.
Mhm. Are there affirmations or specific practices that you use?
So one affirmation, and I learned this. I was going to an abused women's group. I don't have any money, so I had to get my resources from the city, and so there was this free abused women's group, and it came with like 4 hours of therapy a week, which is amazing. So at the very beginning, I was
Mhm.
in person for 2 hours and with a therapist solely for 2 hours, which was phenomenal. And one woman in the group, she offered her affirmation, and that was, only good things can come from this situation. And so when I would wake up in the middle of the night, I have CPTSD, and I can't breathe, or, certain things would trigger me. It's, only good things can come from this. Only good things can come from this. And so when I use it, and I still use it today, when I'm
Mhm.
feeling like a little anxious, or I don't know where to turn, I I use that affirmation. But I also start and end my day in gratitude. And I've always done that, even through the relationship. That's the one thing I think that kept me
Mhm.
going. I would start and end my day with gratitude. Um, and I don't know if any of your listeners are, can believe in God or a higher power, whatever source you believe in. But for me, it's God. And I found God, and
Mhm.
I, speaking to God, I'm like, I'm tired. I can't do this on my own. And I don't have it in me to fight the fight by myself. And so for the first time in my life, I lean fully in faith and hope, and in God. And I can rest there.
Mhm.
And when you're rested, it's easier to fight the fight, right? And so I would say my spiritual practice, my gratitude
Mhm.
practice, and that affirmation has gotten me to a place where, I just did a post on this, but for the first time in my entire adult life, I can look in the mirror and love every single part of me.
Wow.
And I don't pick apart the wrinkles, or, if I have a little bit of cellulite, or if I've, gained the 2 pounds, or I don't pick apart, oh, I could have done this better. I should have done this. I can look in the mirror and actually smile at myself and
Mhm.
say, yeah, like, I'm pretty badass. Like, I'm pretty
And
awesome.
look what you've been through and you're still shining. You're still now able to look in the mirror and say, perhaps like, I love you, Katie. Like
Yeah, I
you got
do. I love
this.
myself so much more now than ever. And you talked a little bit, you mentioned the word resilience. And a lot of, folks see the Tony Robbins of the world, or like Ed Milet or Mel Robbins, or any of these big speakers that are really prevalent out there. They're all like this rags to riches story, right? And so when we as regular folks look at them, we think, oh, resilience is this like huge ribbon cutting ceremony where you've got to make it to that stage to be called resilient. And it's a load of crap, because resilience is what you do every single day. So we go back to that choice. It's the choice to keep choosing. It's the choice to better yourself. It's a choice to be brave enough to look in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself. That's resilience. And to be brave enough to look in the mirror saying, okay, I need to work on me. And owning, like, there is so much power. I'm learning anyways. There's so much power in owning your choices and not blaming someone else. So I'll no longer say I'm a victim of abuse. I was victimized, but I'm a freaking survivor. And I own that I stayed, but I've let that go. I've owned what I've done wrong in the relationship, and I've made peace with myself and God, and I'll never make a mistake like that again, but I've let it go, because we can't carry those things. It'll just keep you tethered to the past, and you'll never be able to move forward.
It's the accountability piece,
Oh yeah,
and owning it
self-accountability.
enables you to take control. And really, a big part of it is forgiving yourself,
Oh, big
because
time. Big time.
you can forgive the other person. You can't control their actions going forward, but when you forgive yourself, it really frees you and puts you back in the driver's seat of the situation.
Well, forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, right? It's not even forgiving the other person. It's not for the other person. It's so the burden comes off of you, and that freedom happens both for the other person and for yourself. You have to be able to forgive quickly in life. You have to. Like, if I didn't forgive my parents, if I didn't, forgive so many things throughout my
Mhm.
life, I I would be a bloody mess. Are you kidding
Yeah.
me? Like,
You
there's
carry that weight on your
yeah,
back.
yeah. And
So,
then again, but back to that
yeah.
resilience. Even doing that, the ability to forgive and forgiving, that's resilience.
Mhm.
Resilience, we need to celebrate that more, especially as women. We need to celebrate the fact that every day we get up and put our feet on the ground, and we wear all the hats that we wear and do all the things that we do. You like we're freaking rock stars. We are resilient rock stars. And it's just, we need to recognize that and celebrate that, and be kind and give yourself grace. And I'm not perfect at it, but I'm getting there.
And speaking of resilient women, you started, and I don't know what the right word, initiative, movement, group called Ladies Take Control. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so I cried for 5 days after he broke up with me, threw me away, told me to go sell my body for groceries. And I had a friend call me, and she said to me, well, it's time to get out of your sad girl pants and put on your badass pants. And she said, you have been given a gift, and you have a voice, and people need to hear what you have to say. So let's go. And I'm like, what am I going to do? She goes, I don't know. You're going to figure it out, but put your badass pants on so you can. And so Ladies Take Control was conceived. It is a movement. It's going to be an incredible platform for survivors and for victims and for women who just want to be more than they are right now. We're all perfect as we are right now, but who want to grow and develop themselves. So we had our first online event, virtual event, 5 weeks after.
Oh my gosh. So incredible.
Yes. And we had 253 women
Wow.
and some of the most incredible speakers. And so the second event happens on June 14th. I charged for the first event. This event is free. And so we have, even the speakers we have this time. Oh my goodness. We have Lisa Lutoff-Perlo, who is now the president and CEO of FIFA World Cup 2026.
Wow.
crazy.
Wow.
We have Captain Kate McHugh, who is the very first female captain of a mega cruise ship. We have Laurel Langmeyer,
Mhm.
who is a 5 times New York Times bestselling author and a financial literacy guru. We have Danelle Delgado, and if anyone knows her in the auto space, like she will change your mindset in 2 minutes or less. Like it's
Mhm.
nuts, and I'm so excited. So we just have these incredible speakers,
Wow.
and it's completely free because when I really got into, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to charge for the community. I'm developing an app right now too, but when I
Mhm.
was going to charge for the community, and as women join, I'm going to reduce the price. But as I started and continued to build it and, put my feelers
Mhm.
out there, and I'm, putting together the business plan and everything else, I'm like, well, I'm building this for me, like something I wish I would have had, right? I didn't have $20 a month. I didn't have $2 a month. I didn't have two pennies to rub together. And
Mhm.
so now my initiative is completely changed, and I am going to be offering all of this for free to
Mhm.
any woman so that every woman can develop themselves. And if you think about what it takes to be developed, like you look at an energy coach could run you up to two, three, $4,000 a month. You look at being part of a mastermind, $400 or $500 a month. You want a business coach, you're looking at two,
Mhm.
three, $4,000 a month. You want, a professional, like a life coach. It just adds up. So
It
who
does.
has $10,000 a month to develop themselves? Definitely not a victim,
Right.
definitely not, 95, 99.5% of women in the world.
Mhm.
And so this community, the Ladies Take Control community, is going to
Mhm.
build to a point where you have all those courses, where
Mhm.
you have financial literacy courses, energy courses.
Mhm.
You're going to learn from the best for
Wow.
free.
Such an incredible initiative. And I know it's going to be part of so many inspirational women's journey to be able to take part in Women's Take Control.
Oh, it's going to
Yeah.
be it is already amazing. And so I have, as I said, the next event is June 14th, and I'll
Mhm.
give you all the links. It's free. If you can't make it that day,
Mhm.
you'll get the recording. So it's like a no-brainer. You like
Okay.
just sign up so that you can watch it at your leisure and learn from these people who are dedicating 30 to 45 minutes. I mean, some of these speakers charge $50,000 for
Mhm.
1 hour, and you're paying, $2,000 and $3,000 a ticket to go to these conferences, right?
Mhm.
They're coming, and we're giving it to you for free.
Mhm.
Plus, they're giving gifts, and they're giving resources, and they're giving all these things. So
Yeah.
sign up
Yeah.
because it's worth it, and your development's worth it, and you're worth it. And so I'm really, really excited about it.
So amazing. And Katie, what's next for you?
I have no idea.
Loaded question. I mean, you're already working on so many things.
I have no idea. What's next for me? Well, I'm continuing to follow my intuition. I'm continuing to, lean in God and take His promptings and
Mhm.
and really listen to be in tune with the Holy Spirit. But I definitely have goals. Like I am writing a book right now called My Mind and Me,
Mhm.
and I will be sharing that book eventually. I'm like 3 chapters in. So as soon as I get to about 5 chapters, I'm actually going to be sharing it as I write it. So I'm going to start reading the chapters as I write it,
Mhm.
raw, unedited,
Yeah. I love that.
just so that everybody can kind of see, and feel heard and see what I'm sort of up to.
To be part of the process.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to hear from, because I'm writing it for these women. I'm writing it
Mhm.
for them. So it's going to be pretty awesome.
Mhm.
So I want to hear that feedback.
Mhm.
So I'll be doing that, and then I've got my podcast that's going to keep growing, which is really excited. It's called Ladies Take Control.
Mhm.
I will be the #1 female book speaker in the world, so watch out. You're going to see me
Yes,
everywhere,
here she
inspiring
comes.
women.
Own it. Own it.
But yeah, right now, honestly, it's about giving back, being present,
Mhm.
helping people. I just want to
Mhm.
serve people. I really
Mhm.
just want to serve
Mhm.
women and make them feel heard. And Especially I work heavily in the male dominated space. And so I'm working with a recruiting company right now, and my goal is to change the perception of the industry and to change the culture so more women will work in the industry.
Mhm.
It's one of the most male dominated industries out there. So, so yeah, there's lots going
Yeah.
on.
There's lots going on. I'm so excited for you. Your future is bright.
Oh,
There's so
thank
many
you.
opportunities, and I love watching the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Is there anything you'd like to leave our audience with today?
Oh, that is another loaded question, like another loaded statement question. I think I'm gonna just go back to the fact that you're not defined by your missteps. You're not defined by what has happened to you, what you have done. Successes or failures, by the way. You're not defined by what has occurred, but
Mhm.
you are defined by what you do next.
Mhm.
And so just take solace in that, knowing that you always have another choice. You can choose to rise today, you can choose to do the hard thing tomorrow, but you always have a choice, and it's never too late to redefine yourself. It's just never too late.
Mhm. Amazing. Thank you, Katie, so much for coming on today. Where can our listeners find you?
Well, Instagram. So if you want more of like a personal tale of my life, at Katie Maris on Instagram. There's Ladies Take Control on Instagram as well. My website is katiemaris.com, and there's ladiestakecontrol.com out there. LinkedIn. But if you have a story or you need somebody to talk to, I will keep you completely anonymous. So please, slide into my DMs. Email me, katie@katiemaris.com. I
Mhm.
am true. When I say I'm here to help, I really am. So you're not alone.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Katie, for coming on today and sharing your story with us.
Thank you for
Mhm.
having me.
It's a pleasure.